Everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
A good Chodesh Tov. We are learning Mishna Bava Kamma, Parak Hey, Chapter 5, Mishnah Gimel, Mishnah 3. Hichnes Shoyrei Lachatzar Balabaya Shaloi Bershus. Similar to the cases we dealt with yesterday, a person brought his ox into the courtyard of a private person without permission. Unegochoi Shoyrei Shabal Habayis. And now the ox of the homeowner, meaning the ox of the owner of the courtyard, now gored your ox that you brought into the courtyard without permission. Or the balabayas, meaning the homeowner, the owner of the chutzar's dog, bit your ox that you brought in without permission. Putter, the owner of the courtyard is exempt. His animal, he's not obligated to have to guard his animals from the animal that you brought in without permission. Now, what happens if his ox went, meaning the one who brought in the ox without permission, it went and it gored the ox of the homeowner? Chayiv. So you, the owner of the goring ox that you brought in without permission, are going to be obligated to pay because, again, you had no permission to be in there. Now, let's say the person had a what do we call it? A water hole, but that's not the right word to use. Just 1 second.
Well,
water pit. That's how they translate it. Meaning it's a place that he stores water. The ox fell into it, v'hivish meimav, and made the waters dirty, meaning he now made it unfit for drinking. So again, chayiv, the owner of the ox, has to pay for the ruined water. His animal, he brought his animal without permission, and therefore he is responsible. Now let's say somebody was in that water hole when the animal fell in, and it killed the person in there. Mishalem es ha-kofer. The owner of the ox has to pay kaifer. Now, we have been learning, and we mentioned previously, if a person's animal kills someone else, so number one, the animal is killed, and number two, the owner of the animal has to pay kofar because it has to pay this kofar, this payment. Sometimes they translate it as ransom because it's really a way of gaining atonement for the fact that your animal killed someone. And you have to pay kofar. So typically, if your animal intentionally killed someone, the animal is killed, and you have to pay kofar to the family of the person who was killed. Now, in this case, the Baal Tanura points out, when this animal fell into the water pit, did it do it on purpose? No. And therefore, if it killed somebody in there, it killed someone unintentionally. So therefore, in this case, the animal will not be killed. The animal is only killed when intentionally kills someone, not when accidentally kills someone. Nonetheless, even though it only killed someone accidentally, you, the owner of the cow who killed that person, still have to pay kofar, because kofar is paid whether the animal did it intentionally or unintentionally. Okay, now, from hichnes bershus, what if the story here is that you told him he's allowed to bring his animal in? He's allowed to bring his animal in. You gave him permission to bring the animal. Then we say, Baal ha'chatzar chayev. Then the owner of the chutzar, the owner of the courtyard, is going to be obligated to pay for the damage. Because by allowing the ox to be brought into the courtyard, the homeowner presumably agreed to protect it, even if he did not say so explicitly. This is what we had until now. This was yesterday's Mishnah, continuation of that. If you gave him permission, then that means you took responsibility to protect it. And therefore, if the courtyard owner's animal gored the animal that was brought in permission, he's liable. If his dog bites it, he's liable. And now at the same time, okay, 1 second here, right. So now so we say that the owner of the courtyard is obligated to pay for the damage. By allowing the ox, he took responsibility to guard it, and therefore, if anything happens to it, he is going to be liable. Now, they bring down here in the bottom, in the notes, in this case, meaning in the case where the ox that was brought in with permission, the homeowner would be obligated to pay kofar if the ox was a muad and it killed a person. Meaning, it's something I didn't mention before. An ox, you only pay kofar for an ox that killed someone and the ox was a muad. That means it was already established as an animal that kills people. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. So it's a muad, okay? And if it comes out now that the ox killed a person, then the halacha would be that who would have to pay the kofar to the animal, who would have to pay the kofar for the death of this person? The homeowner. Because being that the homeowner now allowed the animal in and he took responsibility to guard the animal, then now everything becomes his responsibility. So if it comes out now, if the animal falls into a pit and it messes up the water, your problem. If the animal falls into a pit and kills someone, again, it's the homeowner's responsibility now because he took responsibility to watch it.
Well, he didn't cover up the hole.
Right. So the point is that, and not only that, when it goes in and kills someone, because of that, the responsibility falls on the homeowner because since the person brought in the animal with permission, the homeowner takes responsibility to protect it, to guard it, even though he never said so explicitly. The Mishna then now concludes, Rabbi Yomer, Rabbi said, Rabbi is Rabbi Huda Hanasi, Rabbi Judah the Prince, he said, Bekulan eino chayev et shekabel alav lishmar. In all cases cited in the Mishnah, unless the balabayas who gives permission, unless the homeowner, the owner of the courtyard, even if he gives you permission, he will not be liable for anything until he explicitly takes upon himself to guard. According to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, according to Rabbi, even if you give permission for the animal to be brought in, that does not mean that automatically or presumably the owner of the courtyard who gave permission is now taking responsibility to guard the animal. That's what the Tana Kamma said. Mm-hmm. That's the first opinion, and that's been that was the opinion of the previous Mishnah. But the other cases, like the cases when you put in the pots and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. In the case of where, according to the Tana Kamma, the first opinion, if you let the person in, you take responsibility for you now take responsibility to guard the things that you gave permission to bring in. That's according to the Tana Kamma. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi says no. You gave him permission, fine. You gave him permission. And maybe now, but you gave him permission. But whether now you took responsibility for it because you gave permission, you decided you're now the person who is guarding the animal. You took responsibility to guard the animal. That, according to Yehuda Hanasi, does not happen until you explicitly take upon yourself to actually guard the animal. And where does it say that?
Right at the beginning of the note, Rabbi Omer. It's at the
very
beginning.
Good.
Unusual.
Yeah. And the Bartanura says, the halacha is like Rebbe, he's not responsible until actually you explicitly take responsibility. Therefore, the Bartanura says, if he brought in his ox with permission, stam, all he did was give permission to bring in. They said nothing about accepting to guard it. Balabayas potter, the Balabayas will be exempt. If anything happens to this animal, he never accepted responsibility. Now, another important thing, says the Bartanura, v'hamachnis, now the one who brought in his animal, nami pater, it's also going to be pater. Meaning, we had before, if you brought in the animal without permission, and now the animal that you brought on permission gores the animal of the Balabayas, the halacha is, you'd be liable for it. But it says about Tanura, if now the case is where he had permission to bring the animal and he brought in the animal, and then the animal that you brought him with permission does damages, you're going to be exempt. Because since he gave permission for the animal to be in there, then it's allowed to be in there.
You would bring in the
and therefore you're allowed to bring it in there, and therefore the halacha is going to be that even the person who brought it in is going to be exempt. Okay, very good. Have a wonderful day and a good Chodesh.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.